Hello everyone, welcome to Rob's Rogues in the Batman universe, and I have my dossier here, the Black Mask Contract dossier. And let's take a look at what we're going to be looking at today. We'll pull this out of here. Let's see, who is today's suspect? It's Garfield Lynns, aka the Firefly.
Rob?
Alright, of course it's Firefly from Batman Arkham Origins. The first two figures I picked up from Series 2 are Firefly, which you're seeing right here, and Anarchy. Today is Friday. He's supposed to be in. The whole wave was released, but my comic book store, I ordered from the Previews magazine, so I don't know if they didn't get that in time, the second figure, so he should be there today, I hope. That's one I was really wanting out of the wave. I'd like to think I will get the rest of them from this wave, as I'm trying to be an Arkham completist with these figures. But Firefly is just an amazing figure right inside the package. I cannot wait to cut this guy out of the package and just really kind of see how he is. All the packaging is exactly the same from Series 1. The other figures that are coming in this line are Deadshot. I passed on the Arkham City Deadshot, and I'm glad I did because we are getting this version of Deadshot, this would be his normal look in the Arkham universe. We have Deathstroke, which I already have the Mattel figure of, but I am going to be getting this Deathstroke as well. Killer Croc, I would really like to get. I have the Arkham City Killer Croc, even though my arms are both broken on it. He'll probably be a later figure I'll pick up. Of course, we have Firefly here, and Anarchy, one of my other favorite DC villains. I always like the whole concept behind Anarchy and everything. So, since there's not much to talk about the packaging, as you saw when the video first started, I have the dossier, as he falls down right there. I have the dossier here from the collector's edition of the Batman Arkham Origins video game, which is really kind of cool. Gives you a little bit of history and a case file on all of the villains. Excuse me. It says, up at the top, Garfield, or Lynns Garfield, aka Firefly, as they always put it, backwards. Social Security unknown, date of birth is unknown. He is 5'11", 165 pounds. Eye and hair color unknown. He has third-degree burns over 90% of his body. And then there's no address here. His Gotham proper is, probably where he's located. Additional info, he has, if I get it in frame here, military grade flamethrower, custom flight ability, or assembly, there we go. Some other things you can kind of see here. Hopefully you can see this. I'll try and read it, try to keep it in frame here. So I won't read this whole entire thing, but it talks about his devices that he has, and this is something really kind of cool that they threw in there, but you could kind of have a little bit of extra information on the video game and then what you are looking at. It says training, it says Lynns is skilled in the construction of incendiary devices, both handheld pipe bombs and scale and large-scale demolition level charges. So just some really cool things. It mentions being burned over 90%, suffered burns across his entire body. This was one of my favorite things in Arkham Origins. The battle with Firefly was really intense. It kind of reminded me of the Mr. Freeze level. Origins was saying they wanted to have that Mr. Freeze level with every boss fight. And the first Bane fight was very similar to that. But the Firefly, you really kind of had to think how you were going to take him down and kind of keep moving, kind of like what you did with Mr. Freeze. So there's that. So what we'll do, won't waste any more time. Let's get Firefly out of package, and I want to see him up next to Batman. We'll do some size comparisons and everything like that. So stay tuned. We will be right back. Okay, here is Firefly out of package, and he came with a separate little insert package behind him for his wings and his turbo packs. jets, I guess you'd want to call it. Very nicely detailed. The only thing I'm going to say shenanigans on is the back. It's just really kind of bland. I mean, they have this wonderful detail. And this really surprises me at DC Collectible. The back of Firefly is painted very well, but it's kind of a letdown here. I mean, you have all this wonderful, painting work and the lines on here from like a wing of some type of small plane or something or whatever it might be, and just the scuff marks. But on the back, it's not really finished. I mean, you kind of see here that if it shows up on camera, how they did paint it a little dirty here. But I would have added something else. They have these wonderful rivets here, so it's a little bit of a downer. Now, how am I going to have him on the shelf? I'm not going to have him with his back to me on the shelf, but they peg. You can see the little peg holes here in the back, so make sure I got this right. So this is forward for him, so if I do this right, this should just peg in like, I think should go like, I don't have to do this off camera if I don't have to. I was kind of thinking they might snap in, but evidently these probably come in and out just for the ability to be able to put them off and on a little bit easier. But so there they are. So, having him this way, I mean, granted, this is how I'm going to have him stand. Let's see if he stands. And he's very well balanced, surprisingly. That's a lot of, I mean, these are fairly light pieces. They're very, a thin plastic. I think if you put too much pressure, you could probably snap the wings off. But this is such a beautiful looking figure. I really, really like this guy. Let me see if I can get a little extra light here on him. There we go. So, I mean, all the shading and the detail in the bodysuit that he has, I love this version of Firefly, and it's pretty much reminiscent to what Firefly is traditionally. You can kind of see his other incendiary devices, probably his pipe bombs or his grenades here that he has. We'll get into the gun in a second in his hand. But just the dirtiness and the detail and the scuff marks kind of on the suit here. Let me get some light in here. You can see like the little extra wing or stabilizer that he would probably use to help him in flight. In the back part of the suit, you can see where the hose comes in the back part of his. You don't really see a canister that he would be firing, would have a tank on like you would kind of see in the animated series. So it looks like maybe it's kind of in the suit, all of his chemicals and things like that. So I was kind of surprised there wasn't a canister of some type that would have his, gasoline that he would be, firing out. But hey, it's still cool nonetheless. And it almost looks like the canister is here inside the gun, and that maybe from his jets spinning is what's propelling. I'm getting all, trying scientific and go, okay, this is how I think the suit works. It doesn't really matter. It's still a badass looking suit. Nothing else really moves on this like it would if you've seen the game, that these kind of hinge and pivot and move to let him fly. They've kind of just have him in this pose, but I'd love to get a flight stand for him to kind of get him to be able to hover above some of the other Arkham City and Asylum and Origins figures that I have. The gun here is in a little peg. I think it comes out in the back. It does come off the side here. Just kind of have to push this in so the hose comes out if you didn't want the hose, as I have it off frame. But his hand really doesn't hold it very well at all. It really kind of just rests in there, and I've got it twisted around his leg. So, and I kind of have to, as I'm looking at the articulation, you guys can't see it because I've got him down on the ground. Yeah, you kind of got to twist his hand so it rests in there, but it's so top heavy, you can see it kind of dips down. So he doesn't have a trigger finger to get inside there to hold that up. It is quite heavy, so it's a little bit of a bummer. I'll have to kind of mess with it to see if I can't get it there. It's in there a little bit better. So since I was on to articulation with his hand, as you could tell, his hand rotates 360. No pivot there, since we were talking about his hand. His head, it surprisingly does move, but it's very, very slight. A little bit to the left and the right, and not really much up and down, as the collar is really kind of preventing that. But again, I think this is going to be one of those that you're just going to get him in somewhat of a pose. A flight stand would be great to have come with this, that you could just kind of get him to hover. I have a little coat hanger, little stand that I saw somebody on YouTube make that I'll probably put him on. Maybe I'll run downstairs and get it, see if I get him to balance on that coat hanger, so you can kind of see what I mean. The arms are on a ball and socket. They go up and down. Would go full 360. They do go full 360 if you take the wings off, but I don't know why you would. It's Firefly. Bends at the elbow, and I think, yes, there's a rotation at the elbow as well. So a bend and a rotation would be kind of the, you know, bicep swivel. But, you know, no waist turn or ab crunch or anything. Legs go forward, and they're kind of the weird, almost like a female leg. They make some females where they kind of do this weird rocking motion. So they do go in and out, which is really kind of cool. So you could get him in well, bends at the knee. I don't think there's a twist there. No, there's not, and no boot. So you could kind of get him, you know, in like a hovering pose. So I'm going to have to try and go grab that. Let's bring up, I get him to stand here. I'm really kind of amazed that he stands. There's no ankle pivot at all, which I was kind of surprised that you would want him to have an ankle pivot so you can get him to lean forward a little bit. But he really doesn't need it. His feet are very flat to the ground. So you can bend his knees just slightly, but you're really not getting that lean forward that I thought you would need with the figure. So I'm really kind of impressed how they balanced this figure out to be able to stand. So with having this big, massive wingspan and on the shelf space that I have, I really would hate to put him in a back row. If you put him in front of somebody else, he's going to be totally blocking them. So hopefully I have enough head space in my shelf to get him to hover. Let's bring up, let's slide him over here real quick. Let's bring up Batman and see how he looks up against Batman. And here he is with Batman. So Batman's a little bit taller, almost a head taller than Firefly. So it said Firefly is 5'11", and Batman's I think just over 6 foot. He may be 6'1". So there's a good representation and height scale out of the two figures. So I like that DC Collectibles is doing that with their figures, that everybody's not in the same body buck and everybody's the same size. Each individual figure is sculpted with new pieces all the way around, and we're not using the same arm from Black Mask and it's just painted differently or something like that. So that's really, really kind of cool. Another thing I want to bring up, Chapman Films asked, is Firefly in the same scale with like a DC UC? Excuse me for the cough. So he was kind of curious to see, you know, he hasn't bought a whole lot of DC collectibles, but he said this Firefly looks really amazing. Is he going to stand pretty close to Batman, a DC UC Batman? So let's see what that looks like. So there's a DC UC Batman, the Crime Stopper Batman, which I haven't reviewed this figure yet. I got him at the Ohio Comic-Con last September, and I still haven't reviewed him. So yeah, he kind of, sort of could work. This Batman is shorter. If Firefly is 5'11" and Batman's 6 foot, it's a little off. But I'm kind of a firm believer in perspective is everything. We don't have a Firefly figure from DC UC. This is the first Firefly, that's a hard word to say, Firefly figure, aside from the animated series of a DC, the Justice League Unlimited did make a Firefly figure. So with a little bit of perspective, and if you kind of push him to the back row, Batman now appears taller. So in your shelf, if you really want to have this Firefly and you're like, well, he doesn't match up with DC UC, just kicking back a little bit. And like I was saying, if you had him in a shelf and you put Firefly up front, he's really going to get in the way of other figures. So if you have a top shelf type of deal and you can get Firefly to kind of hover, that'd be really kind of cool. So what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to go downstairs and grab my little coat hanger stand that I made and see if I can't get Firefly to hover and balance on this thing. If I can, then this might be really pretty cool. So we'll check back in just a second and we'll see if I can pull it off. Alright, here is my coat hanger. It's just a normal coat hanger you would have in your closet or something. And I kind of cut it down to size and kind of made this little base here so it can stand. And as you can tell, it's offset from the front to give a little bit of extra weight and spring. These are really pretty stiff. So if I made this right and it's flat enough, it should stay here and the weight of the figure will be able to hold itself. If you know anything about geometry, and I'm not going to go into all that, but the weight of the figure will be supported by the front part of this base to keep him hopefully from tipping over. So rather than try it on film, I'm going to have to figure out where his center of gravity is and all that type of stuff, so it may take me just a little bit. So I'll figure all this out, we'll come back on and we'll see if I can get him standing on the flight stand or not. One moment. Alright, well there he is. I got him, he's balancing. There's a little notch in his back underneath his harness that I can get that in. I do have another one that has like a little hook that would go around his waist that I think I will probably end up using. I'd like to spin him around here so you can kind of see, but I'm afraid he's going to fall over. But there's just a little tiny notch. I think I can show you. Now that you've seen him, he's been up in the air and I can get him to be up there. I think that's really pretty cool to have him. So now I know I can get him up in the air. As long as I have the headroom on my shelf, that hopefully the next shelf isn't up so high, I might be able to get him there. If not, he'll just be standing on the shelf. But that's pretty cool to be able to do. So there's this little spot, as I just turn the camera all the way around so you can see behind my backdrop, this little spot right here in the back. Can I see it here? So there's a little bit of a groove that this kind of, I can rest this in. So there you can kind of see how I had him in. He was standing pretty good. I took a hammer, and I'll probably do it again, and I flattened this. So if I get it flattened a little bit more, I think it'll rest in there just right. And this points a little bit sharp, so I'm kind of pushing into the plastic a little bit to get him to hold. And because of his butt here in the crease, I bent this part of the rod to kind of go down his butt crack, to be perfectly honest. So that's going to rest pretty well here. And I just had to kind of play with the legs and the arms to get his center of gravity just right. So I'd like to think I can get this back up one-handed. And I did. There we go. So today we've been taking a look at the DC Collectibles Batman Arkham Origins Series 2 set of figures, and the first one I've picked up is Garfield Lynns, aka the Firefly. So as always, this is Rob for Rob's Rogues and the Batman Universe signing off saying we will see you guys next time.